It was an exceedingly pleasant day on Earth. The sun was shining, there was a mild breeze, and Jaya Dax was miserable. Misery wasn't a new state of being for the indentured Romulan woman as she looked out the window of her rather spacious quarters in the security wing of Starfleet Intelligence. Jaya Dax was a former Romulan engineer and an expert in cloaking technology, and her services were extremely valuable to Starfleet. So she found herself in the middle of an uncomfortable deal. 16 years ago, she was a smuggler. She, the human she was married to out of convenience, Declan Dax, and her teenage daughter, Melanie. In order to keep her daughter's record clear, Jaya made a deal when Starfleet captured them. Her knowledge and service so her daughter would have no criminal record. In the intervening years, the young Dax had made a career for herself in Starfleet, and had begun reclaiming her heritage and past. She restored her given Romulan name of Menyese, and her appearance, which had been surgically altered as a child. Menyese Dax was now a lieutenant, and it had been months since she had last spoken to Jaya. During a shore leave visit, things went very badly. Lies were told and harsh words exchanged. Menyese had recovered memories of a Romulan man named Dralath Terul that she could not reconcile. In a panic, Jaya lied and told her he was just a smuggler and nobody of importance. But it had been a test. Menyese already knew that the man had once been a Tal Shiar agent, a member of the Romulan secret police, but that lie drove a deep wedge between the two. The elder Dax had made many attempts to call her daughter in the months since then, but Menyese never answered, refused to talk. Jaya spent that time desperately wishing that she had just told her daughter the truth, that Dralath Terul was in fact Menyese's true father, but she had panicked and lied, and it had cost her the already fragile relationship with her daughter. But the tall, stern-faced Romulan woman refused to give up. So again, she stood in the center of the gilded cage that was her quarters and opened a comm frequency for the holographic communication, hoping this time her daughter would answer. When the call came in, Dax was off training with the commander and the security department, but Mona was at the desk in their quarters working on the Thunder Chicken schematics. As she had the power to accept the call on her Mene's behalf now, she tapped in her code and stood up, stepping into the holocall area. As the Romulan woman flickered into existence, she smiled and bowed politely. "Hello, I'm Menyese's bondmate, Ensign Mona Gonady. You're her mother, right?" On the other side of the quadrant in her quarters on Earth, Jaya watched the holographic image of Mona Gonady appear. The elder Dax was expecting either her angry daughter or nothing yet again. At the sight of the brilliantly colored Miradonian, Jaya Dax stood up a bit straighter, startled slightly as she processed the introduction. Yes, I am Jaya Dax. And you said you're my daughter's what now?" the elder Dax replied incredulously. Mona grinned wider, gushing happiness. "Bondmate, how about we go with wife? Most cultures understand it a lot more, so that makes you my mother-in-law." Mona then waved sheepishly. "Hey Mom, it's nice to finally meet you. When we finally get time to have a ceremony, I'll be sure to send you an invitation." The holographic projection of Jaya stood there with her jaw hanging open slightly. Her arms still folded behind her back, she simply stood there staring for a moment in shock. "Wife? My daughter, you are..." Jaya put her hand up to press her sinuses and collect her thoughts. "So, you and my daughter are some sort of couple?" I could see her tastes towards the exotic haven't changed. Mona held out her arms. "Do you need a hug? I'm quite soft, plush, cuddly." Mona also wanted to get a baseline for her Mills vitals through the holographics, and touch was the best way of doing that. She too could be a bit deceptive. With an indignant look on her face, Jaya cricked her neck slightly. "What? No, I do not need a hug. What I need is to speak with my daughter, but she's refused my messages since we spoke here on Earth. Since you and she are apparently so close, maybe you know something about this?" Mona dropped her arms and nodded solemnly, her pleasant demeanor draining away. "Yes, I know much about it. As her bondmate, we've shared many memories. Is there anything you'd like to say about it first? Some truths you'd like to admit that you know we likely already know?" "What I tell my daughter is my own business. We had words and I chose to keep certain information to myself for reasons that are..." Jaya began speaking in a hostile tone until the gravity of what Mona had said had gotten through. "Tell me she hasn't begun investigating him?" The tight-lipped Romulan woman was visibly nervous now as she actively avoided saying the name of the man that both women knew to be Menyese's real father. Inside, Mona was giddy, but outside, she clasped her hands behind her and mimicked her Mill's posture. Drelath Tarul, her real father? We didn't need to. The truth will always be revealed on this ship. A galaxy away, Jaya's jaw dropped a second time. She knows? She can't. I need to explain to her. You begin investigating a member of the Tal Shiar and you attract the attention of the Tal Shiar. It was the only way I could protect her, keep her from digging any deeper. If she thought he was a nobody, just another smuggler that didn't mean anything. In the emotion of the moment, Jaya kept talking as the words began tumbling out. We had to hide her, protect her from... But before going too far, she cut herself off and locked back down. Protect her from what? Mona pressed, leaning forward, her eyes opening further to reveal multiple irises. We've dealt with worse than them and walked away, Mother. We've snatched their prizes from them. We've defeated beings that they feared with glee and decimated their worst nightmares. Do not doubt your daughter's allies. You fear the enemy you know. Mona let a merry grin spread across her face as she tilted her head a bit, still not blinking. We've eaten enemies far worse that have never seen the light of any sun. Watching the bizarre display, Jaya resumed her cool facade, though she had no idea what to make of the bizarre Miradonian woman she was speaking to. Whatever relationship you think you have with my daughter, do not presume that familiarity extends to me. I am not your mother. You are my mother-in-law, Mona replied, simply stating a fact. That means you are, undeniably, family, as is Drelath Tarul. You'll have to accept my apologies, though. My entire family was eaten when I was young, so I'm not entirely sure how to treat you. My mother and I were never able to discuss it. Eaten? The Romulan woman tilted her head as an eyebrow went up. Ah, you're Miradonian. That explains much. I know nothing about this bondmate nonsense, but Minyese's childish desire to construct a facsimile of a family is quaint, but wearing thin. A facsimile of a family? For the first time in a very long time, anger was building within Mona. She could count the times she'd actually been mad in her life on one hand, and this woman knew how to push her buttons. I see now why my Mine is so angry at you. You spit in the face of her life, and you think only of yourself and your own life. You want to protect her, but all you do is wrap your secrets in stinky layers of onion and cabbage and won't even reveal what's at the core, even though you know we could find out in a few days if we dedicated the resources to it. Mona gave up pretending to be composed and gesticulated with her hands. She's made a life for herself now, you know. We do good work, protecting not only the Federation, but the galaxy as a whole, and it's very rewarding. Just remember that you're even where you are now because of her, and the multiple times this crew has saved not only Earth, but Romulus and dozens of other planets. She knows who she is and where she's going, and she's got confidence in that now, and if you so much as think of threatening that, so help me, you will rue the day you pissed off a Miradonian. Recomposing herself, Mona tugged down on her uniform top and straightened her skirt and nodded curtly. So, now that we have a mutual understanding and dislike of each other, the image of Jayadox allowed the slightest edge of a smirk to curl the corner of her lips. What makes you think I dislike you? Tilting her head, the Romulan manipulator continued. You're passionate, but easy to push. But it's obvious you care about her, so you have that. And that's why I now don't like you. But keep in mind that Miradonians are notorious for seeing through lies, and I have both eyes on you. Mona sighed heavily, trying to steer the conversation to more pleasant places. That being said, I'm not sure if the captain or Mine has told you yet, but we need you in an upcoming operation. If you're interested in trading your prison cell for a pirate ship for a while, that is. No, as I've said, I've not spoken to her in quite some time, and I've no idea who the captain of that oh-so top-secret ship of yours is, as we've never spoken. So what's this business about a pirate ship? Jaya responded, curious now. Now it was Mona's turn to quirk a sly grin. Really? Because rumor has it that before she joined Starfleet, you had a great many dealings with her family. She's the Arton family pirate princess, Captain Analia Telvin. Perhaps you've dealt more with her mother, whom we need you to help us depose. Tilting her head back slightly, Jaya let out a mirthless chuckle. Analia Arton. Now it all makes sense. So, Aranara and Analia are finally having it out, and she thinks recruiting my daughter is going to bring me over to her side. Your captain certainly has her mother's ambition if she thinks that. And it certainly explains Minyese's rather rapid promotions, but you should know that Aranara Arton was my client, not your captain, so hopefully there's a better pitch coming to sway me. Mona shook her head. Minet's promotions are based on merit and skill. I was one of the people who saw to that. If there was any favoritism because of family, neither she nor I nor the first officer would have allowed it. She then motioned with her hands a bit. As for the pitch, I don't know all the details, but there's a lot of suspicion and coincidence that points to R&R tipping off the syndicate and letting them pass the defenses on a mining colony staffed by Romulan refugees that you helped bring across the neutral zone that she could conveniently show up after the raid to help them. Minet could tell you more, Mona added, waving one of her hands toward the door. She should be home from combat training any time now. I just hope she doesn't hurt our new Klingons too badly today. Standing for a moment, Jaya's face shifted to one of slight anger at the mention of the Orion Syndicate. Instead, she changed the subject. Minet, is Minyese too much for you? Minet means night feathers in Miradonian. The name of our smaller moon and the protector of lovers. It's my name for her. She calls me Judale. The brightly plumed Miradonian paused long enough for that to sink in before continuing. Do you know what it's like to love someone so much you have a name for them like that? Yes, and I took that name away from her once and hid her with the name, but Jaya was cut off mid-sentence as the door whooshed open as Minyese walked in. Melanie, the elder Romulan finished her thought as the room went quiet. Stepping slowly in as the door closed behind her, Dox was wiping sweat from her brow. Dressed in a black tank top with the gold Starfleet Delta embroidered on its breast and a pair of black sweatpants, her left eye was nursing a mild greenish bruise. Mother. Minyese hissed before turning towards Mona with a slightly resigned expression, sighing. Well, that's her. What's going on? We were getting to know each other, my Minet, Mona explained as she grabbed the medkit on the desk and pulled out the dermal regenerator. Apparently, she doesn't like hugs and is one of the few people to be able to piss me off. We were just discussing our names for you, and she was telling me how much it pained her to hide you with the name Melanie. After all, Minyese is so much more beautiful, isn't it? As she spoke, she gave Jaya a meaningful look and motioned for Dox to let her work on the bruised eye. Looking over at the hologram of her mother, the young pilot stood still as she knew Mona wouldn't stop fussing over the bruise until she let her take care of it. As she stared, she thought back to the evening that she had learned that Dralath Tarul was her father, and she thought back to the words of the woman that had revealed that truth to her, Masato Ray, Death herself, who told the young Romulan to not speak with hate in her heart the next time she spoke with her mother. So, you two have met now. This is the woman I've chosen to be with, Mother, so she's a part of the deal now when it comes to me, Minyese sighed slightly. So I've been told, Minyese, I've been told many things. Things about you and her, and things about this captain of yours, Jaya replied flatly. As she spoke, Minyese looked back to Mona, who was finishing up, and smiled slightly. Catch me up here? Mona smiled lovingly as she worked. Of course, Minet. I let her know about Dralath Tarul and about us, who the captain is, what I know about the tribunal, which I admit isn't much. The attack on the mining colony. She knows about my family. General, mother, daughter-in-law chit-chat, I think. Thank you, Judale. Minyese leaned in and kissed Mona lightly. She knew it would irritate her mother, though she didn't do it for that, but she wasn't going to not do it because of her either. Turning, Minyese now faced the hologram of her mother. So, wasn't quite how I imagined this meeting going, but I also couldn't imagine any way that it would have gone well regardless. The elder Romulan moved to speak, but was cut off by her red-headed daughter. I understand that you felt you needed to lie to protect me. I do. And I understand that you feel like you still need to protect me. And that being said, I am not going to ask you anything further about him, or you, or my past. You'll tell me what you choose to, and I have to accept that and move on. Do you remember Sine Nara? Minyese asked. Knitting her eyebrows as she thought for a moment, it was in those subtle peculiarities of her eyes that the mother-daughter resemblance was most pronounced. I do. We ferried her and 7 other Romulan women from Romulus to an Arton cruiser to freedom. We were, at the most, 12 at the time. She claimed me as her blood sister and pledged herself to repay me one day. Well, she's now Baroness Sine Nara of the Romulan Refugee Corps, and Captain Telvin's mother has sided with the Orion Syndicate to sway her loyalty against the family and what it stands for. She wants to force Analia to give her a child and give it up to relinquish control of the family. It's wrong, and I will be standing by her in an upcoming tribunal to try and rectify this matter peacefully. To do this, we need more of the Baronesses on her side, and Sine Nara's oath to you could turn that tide. There was no shift in the expression on her face as Jaya listened, but she was clearly processing the information. You will stand by her? How will you be doing this, I wonder? Mona couldn't help but point this part out casually. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention that you're a baroness now as well because of, was it the trip to the black market auction with the captain and Schwein? Looking somewhat embarrassed, Mignese shuffled slightly as Mona talked about her status. So, I will have a vote in this tribunal, Mother, as a baroness, which means I have my own ship and can pick my own crew. The captain is willing to talk to Starfleet about your sentence in exchange for your assistance in talking to Baroness Nara and trying to get her support, which may influence some of the other baronesses that are on the fence. Otherwise, the captain's mother wrests control of the organization and becomes yet another slaver fleet in service to the Orion Syndicate, or worse. Watching her daughter talk, Jaya was blank-faced, standing with her arms behind her back. She stood there thinking for a good minute before speaking again. You may tell your captain that I'm not unsympathetic to her situation. That said, I will have criteria that must be met in order to assist her in this tribunal of hers, and those criteria are to be discussed with her and her only. Pausing for effect, Jaya nodded her head slightly, and discussed face to face, not with a hologram. I will pass that message along, Mother, thank you, Mignese replied, matching her mother's flat tone as she spoke, and, regardless of the situation, I'm glad to see you. As am I, Mignese, the elder Romulan nodded, keeping her expression blank as she stepped forward slightly, turning her attention back to Mona. You love her? She asked the Miradonian pilot plainly with an arched eyebrow. Miradonians were simple, romantic, gullible folk at heart, and Mona was no different, so she placed one hand over her heart and declared her love. She is my light in this world, and my inspiration as both a pilot and an inventor. She takes me to levels of joy and happiness that I never thought possible in my life, and shows me there's yet hope every day that I know her. Every time we touch, I feel as though I have become whole and everything is right with the universe. She fulfills my heart's and soul's desires in every way, and I would be lost without her. She is my Minée. Yes, I love her. Every fiber of my existence screams for her when we are apart. Looking deep at the Miradonian woman, Jaya squinted slightly as she thought, allowing the slightest of smiles to crack her facade. She replied, well, a simple yes, Mother, would have sufficed. Then she turned back to Mignese. Relay my message to Analia. I will be waiting for her response. Jolan True. And without waiting for any responses, she stepped out of range of the holoscanners and vanished as the message ended with a chirp. Dox and Mona stood there for a brief moment, watching the space where her hologram stood. Well, that just happened, was all Dox could think to say. You should be proud of her, Minée, Mona said softly as she kissed her love. She didn't lie once and almost slipped up and told me what in the Tal Shiar she was trying to protect you from. I'm not giving her points for being honest for a change. Hopefully the captain will be able to convince her to help, but beyond that I just don't know, Mona. Mignese walked over and flumped on their plush couch. I want to let her in, but every time I do, she reminds me why I shut her out before, you know? Well, if she can piss off a Miradonian, she has some skill at that. Then another thought struck the brightly plumed pilot, and a look of horror spread across her face as she joined her love on the couch. She doesn't eat chicken, does she? On the couch, Dox snuggled up against Mona. Their contact reestablishing their empathic bond, the two had been working to strengthen it back up. It was a slow process, but they were making progress as the days passed. Well, when she went all in on the Vulcan-Romulan reunification, she made us both go vegetarian. I gave up on that when I went to Earth, but I think she's still vegetarian. Not that she wouldn't just do that to get under your skin. Yeah, I understand why you don't like her now, Mona replied, snuggling in tighter. I'm so glad you're better than that. Resting up against her bondmate, Mignese Dox didn't say what she was thinking. Instead, she just held Mona tighter, hoping deep down that she was better, but fearing that ultimately she wasn't.